Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Curator's Corner. I'm Jeff Seymour, historian and curator here at the National Civil War Naval Museum. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we have on display some items that we've had in storage for a while, and we've decided to add them to our growing artillery exhibit here in the main gallery of the museum. One of the things that we always strive for is to find an exact artifact. We want the real deal. However, what we have here is an example of a unique artifact we can't get a hold of. Right here is a copy of the Blakely gun that was aboard the CSS Alabama. And then here is a copy of a round for that gun. A little bit about this. The Blakely gun was recovered from the Alabama site. And if you remember from our great naval war history of the Civil War, the Alabama fought the Kearsarge off the coast of France, off Cherbourg. The Alabama was sunk. And this is one of those items recovered from the wreck site of the ship. We have a fiberglass casting of the gun and of one of the rounds. Now a little bit about the gun. The gun is a Blakely. It is named for, and here's one of those great 19th century English names, Theophilus Blakely, who designed this particular type of gun. He wanted to cool the bands around the breech in order to contain that explosive pressure of firing a round like this. In fact, the Blakely is very similar to our very own Brook guns. If you'll notice, there is a distinct difference between the tube and those bands. Here you can see the effects of construction technique. The tube itself is made out of cast iron. The bands are made out of wrought iron. And those iron plates are allowed to cool around the casting of the tube in order to provide extra strength there. And if you'll notice, if you get real close up, you can see the distinct difference that these two construction materials have underwater. And this was underwater in a saltwater environment. So the saltwater has a stronger effect on the wrought iron than it does on the cast iron. Moving on, the round that you see is what's called a Britton Pattern. Another one of those great 19th century names, Bashley Britton. Britton is working on projectiles, rifle projectiles, during the 1850s. And one of his big advancements or serious work is in providing a strong sabot seating for a rifle round as it is projected out of the tube of the gun. Well, this is the pattern that he creates. There are a handful of these projectiles that still exist. In fact, one that was fired by this gun into the stern post of the Kearsarge. That round, along with the stern post of the Kearsarge, is now at the Navy Yard Museum in Washington, D.C. So you can travel there and see this phenomenon. The shell did not explode, and it could have changed that naval battle if it had exploded. But it did not. It stuck in that stern post and stayed there. One of the problems that we face in naval history from the Civil War, especially with the Confederacy, is where did these materials come from? Especially since the Alabama was built in England. These guns are English guns. We don't always know the record. We don't always have a paper trail to follow, because the Confederate Navy was intentionally cagey because of the nature of the war and Britain's relationship with the two opposing sides. And the Confederate operatives in England oftentimes did not leave a clear paper trail about where they bought this material. So it is oftentimes, especially with the raiders, like the Alabama, the Florida, the Shenandoah, we don't always know because we don't have a paper trail of where this material was bought. So that's one of those great mysteries that we kind of work around and oftentimes don't provide a clear story for because we don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been to see us in a while, come back and see our new artillery exhibit. We've got some old things out, but we've certainly brought out some new things and some old things that we haven't had out in quite a while. So come see our new artillery exhibit. It'll blow you away at the National Civil War Naval Museum.